Good morning, guys. So, from here on out, we are going to be reviewing all the stuff that you've been doing on IXL and even stuff that we did while we were in class. Okay. So, for the next 5 or so weeks, it is review stuff that's really important for you guys, either maybe for some future upcoming tests or maybe for next year or whatever. Okay. So, let's go ahead and get started. You guys are doing today, you're doing, or I'm sorry, this week you're doing C3, C7, and C8. We're going to start one at a time, just one at a time. Okay, C3 is all about word problems, but it's not just word problems, it's inequality word problems. Okay, so I did get an example here already. Hopefully you guys can read this okay. It says a hairdresser is going, oh, that's backwards for me. Okay, a hairdresser is going to work 6 hours tomorrow. It takes 1 hour to do a haircut and 2 hours to color someone's hair. You want X to represent the number of haircuts appointments that she can take, or he can take, whatever, and Y to be the number of coloring appointments that this person can take. Okay, so you need to write an inequality. You don't have to do anything else besides write the inequality that represents this information. So you have two things going on. You have the haircut and you have the coloring that they could possibly do, right? Okay, so each haircut is 1 hour. See, it says 1 hour. This is your important information. This is your important information. And this is your important information. Yes, they happen to line up. It's not always going to be that way. You already know that. Okay, so we can take number of haircuts. Now, granted, it is 1 hour. You could put a 1 in front of this. It doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it kind of look funny. We've gone over that numerous times. So if you put a 1 there, it's not wrong. It just looks silly. Plus the number of coloring appointments. Now, each coloring appointment is 2 hours, so that 2 has to be there. Okay. Now, these appointments together, which is why we're adding, can equal or be less than 6 hours, because at 6 hours, this hair person has to leave, period, the end. Yes, I know people work overtime. In this situation, there is no overtime. Okay. So it has to be, here's where your 6 goes. Now, this total has to be less than or equal to your hours. So it's less than or equal to, and that's it. You wrote your equation. Okay, so this is what you guys are doing for C3. C7 and C8 are a little bit more difficult. Okay, I did take a picture of an example, so I want to make sure and have a proper example for you guys, the one that doesn't get all messed up. Okay, so hopefully this is okay. They will get more difficult than this, but you should be able to zoom through it pretty quickly. And I don't mean video chat through it pretty quickly. I mean go through it relatively fast. Okay, so C7 is all about solving and graphing not inequalities, absolute value. Remember, absolute value means the distance away from 0. So if you have a 5, the absolute value is 5, because on a number line, 5 is 5 spots away from 0. If you have negative 22, the absolute value of negative 22 is 22, because it is 22 spots away from 0. Yes, it's on the negative side, but distance can never be negative. So a lot of people think that like the absolute value of negative 22 is 22. Absolute value of 5 is negative 5. They just flip the signs, and that's not what you're supposed to be doing for absolute value. Absolute value, again, the distance away from 0 on a number line. Okay, so it's going to get much harder than that. They're going to give you problems that look like this. 3 is greater than, is less than the absolute value of s minus 4. Okay, oh, I can't stand writing like this. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to separate this, because remember, on a number line, you have a positive side and you have a negative side. That doesn't change for these. Okay, so first, just take it as it looks. 3 less than s minus 4. Let's keep it like that. Okay, then what you have to do is you have to do the negative side. But if we flip the sign to cover our negative, we have to flip the inequality as well. S minus 4. Okay? Now you just solve these both individually. Excuse me. So we're going to add 4, do the same thing over here. These cancel. So on this side, we have 7 is less than S. On this side, we have 1 is greater than S. Okay, so we need to put this on a number line. Here's our number line. And let's just say number 1 is here. Here's number 7. Now, you just have to make sure and cover what your numbers cover. You don't have to go 0 to 10. You don't have to go -10 to +10. Just a picture of what they're demonstrating or what they're asking you, okay? Don't need to picture the whole world, just what we're dealing with. Now, when you do this on IXL, they're asking you, what kind of dot do you want to put on what kind of, what number? So when you guys are doing, oops, this keeps moving, sorry. When you guys are doing less than or greater than, it is going to be an open circle because that means those numbers are not included. If I have less than $10, I don't have $10. It doesn't include $10. I have a less than that. I could have $9.99. I could have 10 cents. Who knows? But I can't have $10 at all. Now, if it was less than or equals to, remember that looks like this. Okay? If it was less than or equals to, then yeah, include that number. Make it a closed dot or closed circle. So if I had less than or equal to $12, I could have $12. I could also have 10 cents again. Okay, so you just have to make sure and pay attention and know your symbols. So for going back to this example right here, on 7, you're going to put an open circle. Here's our 7, open circle. On 1, you're going to put another open circle. Now, here's what you have to think to yourself. It says, S is bigger than 7. 7 is less than S. S, not X, sorry. Okay, so in this case, the letter S, our variable, is less than 7. So it could be 5, it could be 2, it could be -473. It doesn't matter, but it can't go over 7. It can only go under 7. Okay, so it's going to go in. Now, they're both either going to go in or they're both going to go out, okay? It doesn't usually, like 99% of the time, they either both go in or they both go out. And I'll show you what I mean by both going in. 1 is greater than S. So S could be 2, 7, 463. I don't care. It doesn't matter as long as it is bigger than 1. So bigger than 1 goes this way. See how they're both going in? So all of this right here, this whole section right here, is where your shading goes. So when you guys are doing this on IXL, put your open dot, and your shading, whether it's both out or both in. Okay, hopefully that's good. Now, the next section is, again, a little more difficult because it's more graphing. Okay, let's see. Oh. You're going to be graphing linear inequalities, which means you guys are going to have a coordinate graph. Okay, so let's say let's use the example that we had for the word problem when we came up with that inequality. We had x plus 2y. Just going to change the symbol, has to be less than 6. Okay, we need to graph this. Okay, because there's 2 variables. Like previously when we were graphing not inequalities, absolute value, there was only 1 variable. So we only had 1 number line. But now because there's 2 variables, you're going to have a coordinate graph. Oh, that is not even straight. I am so sorry. Pretend that it's straight today. Okay, so when you graph these things, the first thing you want to do is you want to put this in slope intercept form. So I'm going to move these around. Okay, so we're just going to subtract x from both sides. So now we have 2y is less than -x plus 6. The reason I put the x first, because remember, we're trying to get this in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is the easiest way to graph any line on a graph, okay? So, but this says 2 still. I don't want the 2. I need to divide everything. That's not a smiley face. Divide. So this is now y, because those cancel. Symbol stays the same. Since this x is negative, it's going to turn it into a negative half, because remember, there was a 1 in front of that x. Remember, it was 1 hour for haircuts or something like that. So it was a 1 there. Plus 3. Now, if you were dividing by -2, your inequality sign would flip. So just be careful. This would no longer be less than. It would now be greater than. It'd be going the other way. Okay, so now we need to graph this. It's y. Oh, where'd my x go? X. Sorry. There we go. Y and x. Okay, so when we graph these, we want to go to the y-intercept first. So I'm going to go up 3. 1, 2, 3. Make a dot. Okay, now I'm going to go down 1 over 2. So down 1 over 2. Make a dot. Okay, so far those should be okay. You are going to connect these dots. Now, just like when we were doing absolute value, if it's less than or greater than, it is an open line. Okay, before we were doing open circle, closed circle, now we're doing open line, closed line. So since this is less than, is going to be an open line. If it was less than or equal to, it would be a solid closed line. So in this case, we're doing an open line, so it's just dot, 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 all the way. So I remember when we were doing this in the classroom, a lot of you guys totally fine with graphing a line, slope-intercept form, not a problem. You guys got stuck when you were shading, okay? So here's what you have to do for shading. You have to use this equation. You're going to plug in 0, 0, because 0, 0 is right here. It's a good test point. And I say it's a good test point because it's super easy to do zeros in your head. Everybody knows how to do zeros in your head. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 0 for x and y, because the coordinates for the origin are 0, 0. So we're going to go 0, and then you have -½ times 0 plus 3. Okay, you have to ask yourself, is this statement true? If it is true, you cover the portion of the graph where 0, 0 is. If it is not true, then you cover the other side. So 0 less than -½ times 0, that kind of just disappears, right? It's 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. Is 0 less than 3? Yeah, 0 is less than 3, okay? So since this statement is true, we want to shade where the true information is. And remember, that was right here. So we want to shade this whole section of the graph. So all of this gets shaded. Okay, and that's your answer. So when you're doing this in IXL, plot your points first. Plot your points first. And sometimes you might get a graph that looks like x is greater than 2. Well, it's greater than or equal to 2. Here's your graph. You go to 2 on the number line first, and your line's going to be up and down. Sorry, it's going to be up and down. If it was y, it would be side to side, okay? You go on the x graph, find the 2, and go through it. On the y graph, find the 2, and go through it, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so you might get a lot of single-digit linear lines, and that's okay. Oh, I said linear lines. Linear equations, okay? Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you guys are staying safe. Remember, if you guys have fallen behind, please, please, please reach out to me. I can help you. I can't help you if you don't want your grade up, but a lot of you guys are keeping your grade up and you want your grade better than the 10-week, which is amazing. Okay, keep it up. Like I said, stay safe and enjoy this family time. Talk to you guys later. Bye.